Hello. This PowerPoint will cover Chapter 7, Word Logic. So, word logic involves selecting the correct words and selecting the best words. When you're selecting the correct words, you want to take a look at accuracy, particularly with commonly confused words. Select words whose precise meaning, usage, and spelling you know. Consult your dictionary for any words whose definitions or spelling are fuzzy to you. Examples: it's versus it's with an apostrophe s, which spells out it is. So if you're trying to figure out whether or not your sentence is appropriate, replace it with it is. So if the sentence is look at its beak, you would not say look at it is beak. So you would use its. Lead versus led. There versus there versus there. So there is a direction. There breaks out into they are. There is belonging to someone, or well, a group. Your and you are. Inshore and ensure. Than and then. Accept versus accept. Accept is like you're accepted to college. Accept is I'll take all of these except this one. So accept is to exclude. Both start with ex, so maybe that will help. And lose versus loose. Accuracy also involves taking a look at idiomatic phrases. To avoid these errors, consult your dictionary and read your essay aloud. Sometimes your ears will catch mistakes in usage that your eyes have overlooked. And this is a suggestion I make frequently. Definitely read your paper out loud. Also, as it mentions above, don't use words that you don't know. It often comes across as very awkward, and you don't really want me or any other instructor putting, I don't think this word means what you think it means. So don't bust out the thesaurus if you're not sure of how the word's correctly used. So think about your levels of language. Colloquial language is the kind of speech you use most often in conversation with your friends, classmates, and family. Informal language is called for in most college and professional assignments. Formal language is found in important documents and in serious, often ceremonial speeches. So we are doing formal writing, but the language is in between super formal, which would be ceremonial, and the way you would talk to a friend. So don't confuse informal language with informal writing. When you're selecting the correct words, you want to keep in mind your tone. So if you use invective words, you're showing unrestrained anger. Sarcasm, you're going to have bitter and derisive remarks. Irony, you're saying the opposite of what is meant. If you're being flip or cute, it just comes across as flip, hip, or bored. Sentimentality, it's an excessive show of sometimes what comes across as cheap emotions. People feel like they're kind of being played. Preachiness, you come across as smug. Pomposity, and that's when you come across as like really trying to sound scholarly, scientific, or sophisticated. Let your tone be natural. Don't try to use the words, as I mentioned, that you may not know because you might accidentally change your tone. And remember, denotation refers to a word's literal meaning, like this is truly what this word means. The connotation refers to the emotional associations surrounding a word's meaning. If you're describing John, who doesn't like to spend money, and he's your friend, and you want to describe him positively, you would say, John is very frugal and careful with his money. But if you're not careful and if you make the wrong word choice, you might say something like, John's cheap and he won't spring for anything. That certainly doesn't paint a very good picture of John. So keep in mind the denotation and the connotation. Both of the sentences mean exactly the same thing. However, it's the words that you've selected to use that makes them have the impact that they have. So there's also vague verbs. She got involved in a lawsuit. Well, how? It's more clear to say she's suing her dentist for filling the wrong tooth. Unclear. Tom can relate to Jennifer. Well, what's the relationship? Tom understands Jennifer's financial problem. He won't deal with his ex-wife. In what way? He refuses to speak to his ex-wife. Clyde participated in an off-Broadway show. Clyde held the cue cards for the actors in an off-Broadway play. So as you can see, these sentences aren't wrong, but they lead to more questions. So when you're trying to write concisely and in an academic tone, you want to avoid the vague verbs and use more concise language and be clear. Don't make your reader ask why. Same with nouns. The burglar took several valuable things from our house. Well, what? The burglar took a television, a cell phone, and a microwave. And here are some other examples if you want to take a moment and take a look at those. So when you're trying to select the best words, keep in mind that you want to make your word choices as fresh and original as possible. You don't want to use trendy expressions or slang in your essays. You want to refrain from using text language and web speak in your academic or professional writing. You do want to select simple, direct words your readers can easily understand. And you do want to call things by their proper names. You want to be careful to avoid sexist language. Do enliven your writing with figurative language when appropriate. Vary your word choice so that your prose doesn't sound wordy, repetitious, or monotonous. So if you're making the right word choices, your writing's not going to sound like you're trying to say too much in too little of a space. You shouldn't sound like you're repeating yourself over and over again. And monotonous is so flat that it's not interesting, like you read it and you're bored with it. And if that's the case, think about what it's going to be like for your reader. And you also want to remember that wordiness is a major problem for all writers, even professionals. You can't be afraid to go in and cut. The most important key to effective word choice is revision. So, here's our summary. Consult a dictionary if you are in doubt about the meaning or usage of a particular word. If it's not a word you use often, and you actually have to go to the dictionary to be sure, or you got it from a thesaurus and now you're looking in the dictionary, you may want to avoid that word and use the word that you actually know. There's no judgment for that. Choose words that are appropriate for your purpose and audience. Choose words that are clear, specific, and fresh rather than vague, bland, or cliched. Avoid language that is sexist or trendy or that tries to disguise meaning with jargon or euphemisms. Work for prose that is concise rather than wordy, precise rather than fuzzy. And that was Chapter 7.